Hello, everybody. We have Mila today here, and we would like to discuss some of the aspects of honest sharing and what you can expect in the Sunday with Gopal event if you participate. So, welcome, Mila. Mila is the manager for the United States for the honest sharing, and why we are doing that is to help you to understand more the benefits of honest sharing and why it is so valuable and why it has really also deep implications for the whole society if more and more people do that. And honest sharing is, let's say, it's a modality to help us communicate in a way that we feel better, that our relationships can be deepened, and even that transformation within ourselves and in the relationship can happen. So welcome, Mila, and I'm happy to hear your questions.
Thank you, Gopal. I'm happy for the opportunity. You actually started with the question that I wanted to ask first. Um, so there are people who are doing honest sharing, and they're benefiting from it. They feel it in the sessions and in the groups, and they feel it outside. But I'm not seeing honest sharing spread beyond the groups, and they're starting to talk to their friends about it, but friends have a lot of resistance to it. They don't seem to want to do it. And it seems to not be spreading the way, I mean, when I found it, I wanted everyone to do it. I think it's amazing. I'm not seeing what I would expect to see in terms of it not spreading. So, and actually you just began with that. So is that something you could talk about more?
Yeah, that the fact that it's not spreading is in a way at the same time the proof that it's working, that it does what it should do. Because what easily spreads is always something that nourishes the ego, that feeds the ego and the doer in us. And all this will not lead to our core conflict, to our core emotions, to the center of our being. And so we have two parts in us. One part understands that honest sharing, this direct contact, has an immense potential, but another part in us realizes that if I'm doing that, something very strange happens inside of me, something that I don't know, that the ego doesn't know. And this is connected with fear. So there are two forces in us, and that's why it's not like that's not why it's spreading not so easily. And that's also the point why we do that video here, to help that part who wants healing understands why it is so important to give it a try, to do it for a longer time and not just give up after the first time. So that's the basic understanding, that what really reaches my core, that what really leads to a transformation is always something I don't want so much at the first time. So there's always some hesitation, because I understand there's something happening I have not in control.
Yeah. Sorry, is there more? Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Because it seems like people want the transformation, but they don't want the transformation in the United States, or maybe worldwide. I don't know, but there's this term biohacking, where people try to do they try to have an effect on their internal self by doing something from the external. There are nutraceutical supplements that they can take to enhance brain performance or their neurochemistry. They were now with trauma work. People are trying to tonify the vagus nerve, so they really are trying to do internal work by doing these things called biohacking, which so they want to do the work, they want the transformation, but they're not going about it the honest sharing way. They're going about it like in a biohacking way. And
Yeah,
that's the ego, the want or
yeah. And if we look closer to that, this part in us that is doing all that what you talked about doesn't really want the transformation. What it actually wants is, it tries desperately to get a connection by changing something on the outside. So what we are suffering from is that we are not able to share our core emotions of sadness and grief and loneliness. And all these things you talked about, they promise that. This is the dirty trick. It promises all these methods of working on the outside, working on symptoms, working on performance, working on changing, making you better, and so on. This is the dirty trick. It promises you the experience of deep connection and thus regulation in the autonomic nervous system, but without the need to address and to touch your core conflict and your core emotional pain that resulted from developmental trauma in childhood. And this is the dirty trick. And this is how the economy earns a lot of money. But it doesn't lead to a result. It leads to state changes, to maybe even strong experiences, but it doesn't change the core that is creating the suffering in us. Because, for example, we could take a truck, we could do skydiving, we could do anything, and we have strong experiences, strong results. We can do physical training and all these things, and we have results, but these results are always on the outside, and these results don't change our suffering, they don't change our experience, and they don't, of course, don't change our relational patterns, our destructive relational patterns. So we need something that is able to change how we connect, how we relate. And of course we feel that, because there all the pain from childhood is hidden. And honest sharing is doing exactly that. And the strange thing is that for honest sharing, we don't have to do anything. We don't have to change anything. We don't have to strive for something. It's not even a path. Honest sharing is not a path. It has even no goal. And this is something the mind doesn't understand. Honest sharing has no goal. Goal is the mind. It has nothing to do with our experiences, because experience and feelings are always right here now. It's not in the future, and it's not at another place. So honest sharing means we just share what's there in a special way. And this brings the transformation. It's even easier than all the biohacking stuff, which costs a lot of money, and you need to force yourself to do things. Yeah. No need to force to do something at all. There's no need to force yourself to do something you don't, that the organism doesn't really want. Yes, it's almost impossible to explain that for the mind. It's so the solution is in one way very easy, and on the other hand, it dissolves the ego. So and the ego is in a way, the ego always wants to do something, and with honest sharing, the ego has nothing to do. It's about sharing, not about doing.
Yeah, that is difficult for the brain to grasp, because I will do honest sharing because I find that it regulates my nervous system, but I'm aware that I'm doing it for a particular reason. Yeah.
Yeah, that's okay. It's like that. We start doing things because the mind has an idea of improving things. That's okay. But if we cling to that, and if we don't share this concept, then we are identified with it, and this creates separation. As soon as we share that my mind thinks, or my head thinks that I'm doing honest sharing because I want to feel better, whatever, then again it's no problem, because we cut the identification with it, and then we are really in a contact. But if we are identified with that path and we don't share it, then this is creates separation, and then again the transformation cannot happen.
Yeah. Um, you mentioned working on core issues. I had attended a couple of your floating events, and I know that in talking from some people that I do honest sharing with, it's difficult for people to work on their personal problems in front of an audience. That's not very common here. Any suggestions for to help us overcome that so that we can get help in dealing with our core issues?
Yeah, that's interesting because here in Germany, especially, it's very common to work in that way in front of groups or even in public. And yeah, and of course I understand this, especially with the American culture, it's even a bigger challenge. But actually, the work I do and the work of honest sharing doesn't mean that we have to, how do you say, cross borders or to do something we don't feel well with, because borders also are something that is there right now, and it's about sharing what's there. And if there's a border and I share the border instead of trying to cross it, then again I'm in contact. And yeah, and so in the event that I'm offering, I'm not interested in any details of people's life. So it's not about that. I don't need that. I'm just looking how they connect, yeah, how they get in contact with me and with others, and what the mechanism is that creates distance. And for that, I don't need any details of their life or private details, not at all. I see it in the way someone talks to me, and then I can help. This is a session, an individual session in front of a group, and it's a way of helping someone to interact with me in that case in a new way. And this new way of interaction changes something deeply in the nervous system and in the yeah, how someone feels himself, and even how they see life as such. And again, it's not about therapy. It's not about details. It's not about the past. I don't need the past at all. I don't need the future at all. So we are not talking about the past. We are not talking about the future. It's just about what happens between us. Yeah, and if someone wants to just to watch that, you can buy an audience ticket and with camera and microphone off and just watch the session. So there's no danger at all.
Yeah. Yeah, when you said that it's not about crossing the borders, you could just communicate that the border is there. I felt myself relax.
Yeah,
So that was yeah,
exactly. It's
yeah,
so difficult for the mind to understand that nothing, for the transformation, nothing needs to change. Because if I communicate what's there, I don't need to change something. And if I'm not able to communicate what's there, then I suffer, and then I try to change the suffering by doing something, and this will never work. And this is how humanity is lost completely.
yeah. Um, we go back to honest sharing for a bit. So going back to sharing what's there, one of the most difficult things that new people to honest sharing have trouble with is distinguishing the three layers. So in America or in English, it's common to say, I feel pain, I feel worried, I feel confused. Um, how can we help people identify the three levels so that it's less frustrating? Or is it okay that they're frustrated?
It's even that it's okay to say I feel frustration. My mind or my head thinks that I don't know how to distinguish the layers. Yeah, and it's a learning process, because well, it's actually like that. If we could honest sharing do that perfectly, we would be completely awake and liberated. All the identification would be overcome, and then actually we wouldn't need it. So the fact or the process of liberation is at the same time to learn how to do the honest sharing correctly, and the correct distinction is something we have to learn, because we are so distracted. We have been so moved away from ourselves, so in such an extreme way that we even are not able to distinguish between emotions and body sensations. This is actually unbelievable. Yeah. And for my participants, sometimes I have to explain that what emotions are. I have to explain humans what emotions are. For example, hate, jealousy, anger, sadness, loneliness. These are emotions. And body sensations are heat, cold, pressure, pain, relaxation, tension. These are body sensations. It's amazing. I have to explain that. And yeah, and then more and more you feel the difference between body sensations, emotions, and thoughts, concepts. Yeah. And in this world today, we are fully identified with the mind, with the concepts. We have no distance to the things that going on in the brain and in the mind. We are completely one with our thoughts, and this is the most difficult part.
Yeah, I think one of the some of the sensations that people say incorrectly are like stress, anxiety, nervousness. People say, I feel nervous, I feel calm, I feel anxious. And that's at the level of the body, as I understand it.
Yeah, it's well, if this spectrum of fear, stress, anxiety, if people say I feel, it's not, it's okay. It doesn't destroy the whole thing. But in fact, it's something of the body, and that's my point of view, and I can explain it because if we have stress and fear and anxiety, if we perceive that, or some would say feel it, this means the body has a problem. And if the body has a problem, it's about surviving, and it's not about a relational context. And emotions have always a relational context. Emotions don't exist as such just for the body. They always have something to do with another one or with a group, and with the needs in relation to someone else. Yeah, if you, for example, jealousy, someone else is involved. If you feel sadness, it's about separation from someone. If you feel anger, it's about someone crossing your borders. It has always a relational context. But fear and anxiety and stress is the result of a threat for the body, and at the same time a situation of helplessness. So this is the combination for that state we call stress, fear, and at the end of the spectrum panic attack. If we are in danger and cannot do anything to get out of the danger, then the body is in that state, and it's about the body. If, for example, if you are in a traumatic situation, it's not about a relationship. It's not about how you relate to someone. Yeah, it's just about surviving, survival of the body.
Yeah.
But again,
Yeah.
if someone experiences and says, no, for me, it's a feeling, it's okay. It doesn't destroy the honest sharing. It's just about if he or she has say, this is the layer I experience it in, then it's okay to share it that way. The point is to use the phrases at the beginning, yeah, correctly, and not just talk anything. So that's the idea many people have, that honest sharing is just sharing something honestly somehow, and it's not that doesn't help. It's about a very precise, structured way to tell another one what's inside of me, and we have to follow the instructions, otherwise it doesn't do the thing.
Yeah. Yes. I often find new people say, sharing honestly is the same as honest sharing, and it's not. There's a very, yeah.
Because by just honestly sharing something, somehow we don't cut the identification with the content, and this is the final result. If we do honest sharing correctly with the instruction I published, then from the more we do that, we more and more realize that we are not the body, we are not the emotions, we are even not the thoughts, and we are like waking up in a fourth space that is witnessing all this body mind sensations. Yeah, and we realize, well, I'm something else. I'm bigger. I'm not this body mind machine. I can watch my thoughts, and this is where it leads finally. And but only if we do it in that way correctly. Otherwise, we are lost in the mm, in the things that appear.
Oh, thank you so much. I have to go to my local group.
Okay.
But thank you so much for answering these questions. This has been really great.
Thank you. Thank you for asking.
Okay, see you soon.
See you. Bye bye.
Bye.